Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. This evening, we have a special program prepared just for you. And at this time, we're ready to begin. Let's bow our heads for prayer. Father in heaven, we ask for your divine presence. Father, we thank you for another day, a lovely day despite the weather. But at the same time, thanks. Be with us now as we discuss different aspects of communication. Bring to mind those students who may have special questions at the end, and may they be resolved here this evening. But we thank you for bringing us together, and we ask for your blessings. In your Son's name we pray. Amen. Dr. Elliott.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. Ooh, good evening, everyone. It gives me great pleasure to welcome you all to the Dykes Rivers Lecture Series. As some of you know, we began this series as an effort to connect our students with professionals in the real world, to allow them to do networking, to learn more about the professions that they are going into. And it also has an entrepreneurial bent, because some of our students will leave here and go to work for themselves, and we're excited about that. And this series helps to facilitate those processes. Now, I know that you noticed the name, the Dykes Rivers Lecture Series, and I do believe we have a member of the Dykes family. Would you please stand and let us say welcome to you. This evening, we have a special presenter for you, and our format this evening is going to be, in just a moment, Mr. Dwayne Cheddar, who has known our speaker for a very long time, will introduce him. He'll share some things with you all, and you'll have a chance to engage with him, to ask questions. So, without further ado, we'll start with Mr. Cheddar.
Thank you. I've known Mark Henry, Dr. Mark Henry, since the 1990s. We just leave it at that, 1990s. It gives me great pleasure to introduce my friend and colleague. Dr. Henry graduated from Northern Caribbean University. Then he went to Walla Walla University, where he did his Bachelor's of Science in Electrical Engineering. He also earned a Master's of Science in Electrical Engineering and a MBA in Marketing and Management. He earned a Doctorate of Business Administration in Technology and Entrepreneurship. Dr. Henry has been the chief engineer for Walla Walla radio station. He was the lead product engineer for Harris Corporation. I don't know how many of you have known about Harris Corporation, but it's one of those organizations that builds those 40-foot trailers, the trucks and all of that thing, you know. See, like what we have in here in terms of setting up a studio with all our engineering stuff and everything in here. He does that. He was a lead engineer in Harris Corporation. He also became the architect or lead engineer or senior advanced engineer in Harris Corporation. Then he moved on to Major League Baseball Network, where he was actually the director for IT systems and broadcast. And later on, he moved on to Disney, where he serves now as the vice president for Disney for broadcast infrastructure. Actually, Mark is also a sound engineer. When I first met him, he was the sound engineer for Northern Caribbean University. And he moved on from there, and then he moved into television and so on, and he has not given up hopes in terms of media and technology. Ladies and gentlemen, I present to you my friend and colleague, Dr. Mark Henry.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much. Thank you to the staff and faculty of Oakwood University. Just to give you a quick background on myself, I got a question earlier on today. This was not part of my original presentation, so I'm going to just include it. Someone asked me to give some form of background beyond what you just heard as to how I became to do what I'm doing today. So as Cheddar just mentioned a while ago, I am Jamaican by birth, grew up a lot of my life in Jamaica, but I do have a connection to Oakwood. The Blakes, Doctors John and Jean Blake, are my uncle and aunt. Dr. Jean Blake is my dad's sister, and another Dr. Blake is actually sitting here, my cousin. My first cousin is actually here, so thank you very much for the support. So every year we used to frequent the Oakwood University campus for alumni. It was a mini reunion around that time. I used to drive down from where I then lived in Cincinnati to come and enjoy the community. So that's one of my connections here, as well as my wife is an alum of Oakwood. She graduated here in 2000. So I have varied connections to this university. So as I mentioned before, born in Jamaica, loved media in any shape or form, lived, breathed. It was just something as a great passion for me. And I decided, you know what? I want to study what goes behind making it happen. So therefore, I went into engineering, and electrical engineering for that matter. So I went through my career, at least my educational career, and then I started working and grew up through the ranks, started from some of the very basic things. We do what what's called system integration, where you put different pieces together to make something work. And anyone who works in system integration, they start you off with what they call the intercom system. What intercom system is, what you see these guys with on their heads are on the different sets or the cameras, is one of the most basic communication systems or systems within a plant. So I'm just saying that to say you will start at the bottom, and there's nothing wrong with starting at the bottom, and you continue to grow. So I grew all the way through various things and various systems and worked for various companies until I had an opportunity to work for Major League Baseball. They were launching a TV network back in 2008 or thereabout. And at the time of its launch, it was the largest cable network that launched back then. So we grew from nothing to where it is today. I saw the transition going from the traditional TV sets to people watching things on devices. So I transitioned to another arm of Major League Baseball that was called Advanced Media and Technology. Those were the guys that were doing the streaming of then baseball games. And any baseball game you're watching online was being done by that particular team. Because I saw that's where the industry was going. So rather than wait for the shift, I decided to be a part of that shift. We recently got acquired by a company called Disney to be the main base for Disney streaming technologies. So anything that you see from a Disney streaming is going to be based upon our core team, which is then called BAMTech. So while as part of BAMTech, before we got acquired, we did things for a lot of people you may know. You may know people that's called Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, WWE, for those people who may know that, March Madness, and you name it. A lot of brand names, we were the technology behind it, making it all happen. So you can get to do what you love. The key thing is to know what you love. And we're going to see if we can talk to some of that kind of stuff. But before we get started, now I'm getting into the actual presentation now. Before we get started, I need some help from you guys. I need to find out some age groups. So by show of hands, we're going to go show of hands. All those who were born before 1995. All right, okay. All those who were born between 1995 and 2000. Yes, we're not as young as we thought we were. All those who were born between 2000 and 2006, 2005, 2006. All right, we got a couple of hands there. All right, good, good, good. When you guys were born from 2000 to 2000, or even 1995 to 2006, these are some of the technology that came out back in that time. In 1995, how many people have heard about a company named Amazon? That's when Amazon started. In 2000, the USB drive was created. And back then, you could only hold a couple megabytes of data. Some of you guys' files are larger than a couple megabytes as to what could fit on this drive. Also in 2000, the camera phone was first released. How many people know what a Blu-ray disc is? How many people own a Blu-ray disc? All right, more than I expected. That came out in 2000. This year, we're pushing something called 5G. You ever heard about 5G technology? Back in 2001, there was something called 3G. How many people have heard about something called the iPod? That was 2001, November of 2001 when that was released. The Roomba vacuum, which is now taking over by storm, that was also created in 2002. Skype, which is not as big a thing as before, was also it was 2003. Facebook, 2004. YouTube, 2006. And commercial drones was also 2006. Let's flash forward to today. There is something called OTT, or over-the-top streaming. Anytime you watch something on your mobile device or a Roku or a Fire Stick, that technology that brings you that feed is called over-the-top streaming or OTT technology. How many people have heard about HDR? All right, cool. That's high dynamic range. It allows you to see darker darks and brighter brights all within the same the video without what they call clipping. So you get a much more lifelike experience to what we see with our naked eye. Mentioned 5G from before. 4K and 8K, the new buzzwords in TV. You go to your favorite Best Buy, or there you see 4K TV sets. 8K is going to be coming out in the next year or thereabouts, so look out for that. And 12K is already released, so look out for that as well. Augmented and virtual reality. You guys know about that? It's kind of, you put on the headsets and you kind of pretend what's going on. You kind of experience what's going on there, or you can pretend you're touching the different things. Blockchain. For those who like the virtual money, like Bitcoin, that's all running on the blockchain type of technology. Cloud computing. Your Gmail. How many people have a Gmail account? You're all on the cloud. The minute you open a Gmail account, you're on cloud. They didn't call it cloud when they said it was Gmail, but you're all in the cloud. And just as a FYI, cloud is not this ethereal thing in the middle of the sky. It's somebody else's server that you're paying for. Instead of you paying for it, somebody else is paying for it or owns the hardware. And then robotics. Has been going on for years, but it's getting smarter and smarter, and they're doing a lot more things. I'm going to go back up one slide for a sec. How many of that technology is still viable today? Viable. Some of them, right? Yeah. But not all of them. A good number of them, but not all of them. I'm sure I could have put a different list up here that had technology that was there that you may have not even heard of that doesn't exist today. The same thing is true about this list. 20 years from now, when you come back here and you're speaking to the students that are sitting here, the things on this list, not everything on this list is going to be existing. I'm sure it's going to be something like 20G by then, or something else that's going on here. So I say that to say it's not the technology that matters. Technology is going to come and go. Technology is here today, gone tomorrow. It's what you do with the technology that makes a difference. All right, I need 3 volunteers. 1, 2, one more. 3. All right, if you may, is this mic hot? I would like you to tell me what you remember from your senior year in high school. What's memorable? Yeah. Yeah.
Something very relevant. I was the editor of my yearbook my senior year.
Uh-huh. So you remember that. And what about that do you remember?
What about that? I really remember trying to push people to be themselves as much as they can be, to be authentic, to be real, to be themselves, because that was something that I consistently saw not happening.
All right, thank you. Thank you very much. You want to go? You remember now?
I mean, okay. I thought you meant like what was happening in the world.
Oh, no.
Okay.
Just for you. What do you remember? What was memorable about that time?
Spending time with friends, trying to get those last few seconds in before everything changed, because I'm friends with like nobody from high school anymore.
Okay, yeah, all right, that's fine.
So making sure that like everything was really memorable and the relationships would last a lifetime and all of that silly stuff.
All right, cool. That's silly. Such important stuff. All right, one more person here, right? It was over here. There you go.
At that time, that was a while back. But my class was really small, and like the beginning of my 12th grade year, we kind of divided, and then like at the end, we kind of came together and we're like, we're so small. It's a small class. Like, what are we doing? Like, we're gonna be friends for the rest of our lives. But I don't talk to anybody right now.
Thank you, guys. What do you recognize, or what's a common theme with what you heard from our volunteers? Friends, relationships. Excuse me? They come and go. How many of them spoke about their grades? But isn't that what school is about? So what was being spoken about there is one's experiences. That's what we remember. We don't remember the grades. We may remember some of the teachers that gave us bad experiences. That will forever happen in your scholastic career, by the way. So what's important there is the experience. That is what will go with us and last a lifetime. Now, I'm going to read something here. I want to make sure I get it right, so I'm going to read it here. I spoke about the iPod before. Portable MP3 players had been around since the mid-1900s, or mid-1990s rather. But Apple found that everyone on the market offered a lackluster user experience. So they set out to change the experience of portable music players, and in November of 2001, launched the iPod. If you notice, the need was already established and products were out there that met that need. What was lacking was a useful user experience. 。 How many people have heard of a company called Build-A-Bear? What does Build-A-Bear do? Build stuffed animals. Where can I buy stuffed animals? Anywhere, right? Last week, Build-A-Bear stock went up. No connection to Valentine's Day, actually. Because you can buy stuffed animals anywhere, right? Why do you think Build-A-Bear's stock went up? Yeah.
They try every year. They target different audiences that they see becoming more and more mainstream. So something like Pokemon Go, and seeing that anime and Eastern entertainment is becoming more popular, they started making those things as well and making those available in order to cater to them.
Absolutely correct. So how many of you have heard of a little thing called Baby Yoda? They just announced that they got the licensing deal for Baby Yoda. So you can go now to Build-A-Bear and build your own Baby Yoda. But it's not about Baby Yoda. As was said before, you can go ahead and you can buy teddy bears anywhere you want. But what you cannot go and buy is the experience of building it with someone else. Building it with your kid, your friends coming together and building something. That is what they're selling. It's the experience, not the product. So while all these other stores are closing left, right, and center, Build-A-Bear stock is going up for building teddy bears. It gets better. Facebook. How many of you know how Facebook started? Yes, ma'am.
It was a project between a couple of people. It was an IT project, I believe, between Mark Zuckerberg and I think one of his other friends. They were working on it, and as they were working on it, they realized how much of an impression it could actually make on other people as well, and decided to build upon it and make it into something else.
Thank you. I'm going to give you a little bit more information. Facebook, i.e. the name Facebook, was built by these guys to rate girls on campus. To rate. Rating their face. It was like, yep, this one is a 10, this one is a 1, this one is a 2. That was what it was for. And it was spread across the Ivy League universities, and that's how it was being used. But then they realized that people were then using it for something completely different than they intended it to be used. We as humans like to be in touch with each other, right? And when you graduate from high school and college, you go all different directions, but you still want to keep in touch. So Facebook then grew to have a different use case, where people are now using it to stay in touch. And it blew up from there. Yes, ma'am.
Before Facebook, there was a similar something called Classmates. Do you
Yeah.
remember Classmates?
I don't remember Classmates, but I remember MySpace. Yeah.
MySpace, I
MySpace.
think, was also after Classmates, but Classmates was very interesting and very popular, and I reconnected with a lot of my friends. I can't get that same thing on Facebook, and I think it was Classmates that gave
Facebook
Facebook
the idea.
what they're doing.
Yeah, to be able to shift to a broader base. Agreed. So sometimes we have technology that we start to use, that is different from what we intended. So the question now is, how do you do this? I cannot have them up there. The first thing you want to do is to reflect deeply on your personal experiences. What do you do that you see a need for? And we all have different experiences, whether it be something you're doing in school and you're like, why is this taking you so long to do? Instead, I can't type. Instead of typing, can I just speak what I want to speak and have it typed for me? Although they have something that does that, but you get the idea. The next thing that you can do is observe your friends and family. Ask questions. Watch your friends. Like, oh, okay, this is what you do. The third one is find out what workarounds people do to get around problems. So if I need to go from point A to point B and it's raining, I don't have an umbrella, how do people go around doing that? Do they ask a friend but no friends have it? Then it's possible to have an on-campus chauffeur service to go from point A to point B. Not everything may be practical, but you get the idea. Oops. So now let's apply this to media. In the first one, when you reflect on your experiences, and we had this conversation earlier on in some of the seminars, is while you're making your productions, find out what things speak to you. Because you could watch movies that you're like, okay, that was a waste of 2 hours. Or you can watch a movie and like, man, that touched me right here. In like manner, find out what moves your friends and family. They are your audience at the end of the day. If it moves them, it most likely is going to move who you want to talk to. And then from a technology point of view, or just even just a method point of view, find out what workarounds that you see in media that you have to be doing, and find how you can adapt those solutions into an actual business, because we're also tying some entrepreneurial part of it as well. All right. I'm going to share some other things that I wish I was told when I was right where you are now. How many people have heard this text before? Whatever your hands find to do, very good. How about this one? Whatever you do, work at it with all your heart as unto the Lord. Very, very good. And for the persons who are wanting, the first one is from Ecclesiastes 10, verse 9, and the second one is from Colossians 3, verse 23. One of the things that, and I cannot say it's an age thing. I wish I could, but I cannot. One of the things that I find very disheartening in the workplace today is the lack of work ethic. And I can't blame the young people, because it's not just the young people. I beseech thee, please, pretty please, when you go to work and the workplace, remember first, it's a reflection of who you are. And people do watch. Second, as we just read some of the text there, it's a reflection of whose you are. Please, I beg you, perform at your highest capability. And here is one of the other reasons why. If someone gives you an opportunity, you call up your parent's friend, or your parents call up a friend and say, my daughter or my son is looking for a job. Can you give them the hookup? I don't know if you say hookup in these days, but can you give them an opportunity? By that person giving you an opportunity, the mere fact you are coming into that organization is a reflection on the person who is giving you that opportunity. So when you don't show up and perform, you're reflecting on the person who recommended you. So what do you think is going to happen the next time somebody calls that person and says, can you give my son or my cousin or whatever? They were like, send me your resume. I will see what I can do. And nothing normally happens after that because of them being burnt before. So you're doing a disservice not just to yourself, but to the others who come behind you. So please, I beg of you, when you get these opportunities, make the best use of it. Now, when you get into the door, you are not most likely not going to start at the top. Don't expect to start at the top. In the production media world, you may be getting someone's coffee. But guess what? You're in the door. There are many CEOs that will tell you that they started in the mailroom, they started bringing people coffee, they started, and the list goes on. Make use of the opportunities that you're afforded. Someone could always bring out the parable of the talents as an example of you have this, make use of it. So you now have these opportunities. You've graduated, you have all your experience, you're out in the working world, or about to get in the working world. And then life happens. What do you mean by life happens? I'll share with you a personal story. It was a beautiful summer afternoon. We just had church potluck. Went for a walk with the Pathfinders, and for those who are non-Adventists, that's the Adventist version of the Boys and Girl Scouts. And leisurely walk, so nothing strenuous. My wife was 37 weeks pregnant. So everything went well, went back home. My wife was feeling a little nauseous. So I asked, when last did you feel the baby move? And she said, a couple hours ago. Little flashback before then is around a week prior, we went for an ultrasound. So being the first child of ours, we didn't want to know what the sex of the babe was. There are very few things left in life that are surprises, so we wanted to keep that one for the surprise, like yay. But ironically, the ultrasound tech, when she was doing the ultrasound, she slipped up and she said, "Oh, your baby girl looks nice," and so on and so forth. But my wife and I pretended like we didn't hear it, So we both hoped that the other person didn't hear it, because the tech realized what she did and she just kept on moving and hoped that we didn't hear her either. But so Sabbath afternoon, going back to the Sabbath afternoon again. So I suggested that my wife drink some cold water. I'm being told that you drink some cold water, the baby starts to move and stuff. She did that, nothing happened. So I said, all right, you know what, let's go to the emergency room. So went to the emergency room. I'm going to cut some of the story short as well. And they checked for a heartbeat, no heartbeat. And that night, I nearly lost both my wife and my daughter. There was a tearing of the umbilical cord. There's a more technical medical term for that. And my wife nearly bled to death. We survived that. 2 years later, we pregnant again and gave birth to a beautiful baby boy. So of course, while he's growing up now, we noticed he wasn't hitting his milestones. So of course, everyone says, boys, they're slow. They're slower than girls. Yeah, they'll take a little while to hit their milestones. But after a while, we said, let's get this thing checked out. So we got him evaluated at 2.5 years, and he was diagnosed with moderate to severe autism. Life will happen. I can guarantee you, I didn't even know what the word autism meant. But still, being in that circle of families, you recognize how blessed you are and what could have been. My son is not in a wheelchair that I have to do everything for him. There are families with autism that's the case. I'm telling you this, that life goes on. You will make your plans, but you will get unwanted forks in the road that you have to be able to navigate. You can't just give up and say, well, I didn't plan for that, then what's it? You have to be able to move with the flow of life. In 5 years, you may say you want to be here, but you recognize, no, it's going to take you 10 years to get here. But guess what? You're going to be there. As I remind people, especially people who finish or haven't even finished school, I said, and they want to go to their master's or their doctorate, I said, guess what? The time's going to go by anyway. It takes you 5 years to do a doctorate degree. Guess what? The 5 years is going to tick by. Whether or not you do anything about it, it's going to tick by. Why not do something? So life is going to throw different things at you. You have to be able to deal with it. And if you think the stuff in school is rough right now, you have no idea. I heard some laughter in the back. No idea. No idea. All right. So life happens. But regardless, find some balance. There is no one earthly, and I'm going to say earthly on purpose, earthly thing that can meet all your needs. I'm going to say that again. There is no one earthly thing that can meet all your needs. So guys, there's no one woman that's going to meet all your needs. Ladies, there's no one guy that will be able to meet all your needs. Precisely. That's the earth. That's why I expressed the earthly thing. So he said that's except for God. That's why I bounded it to earthly. While here on earth, find other interests. Beyond just work as well. Whether it be a hobby, whether it be singing, writing, staring out into space, whatever it is, find something else that you can lean into and have multiple areas that you can lean into. If you do not, you are going to get frustrated. A lot of people have broken relationships because their expectations of those relationships are far beyond what that relationship can offer them. Have more than one outlet or inlet into your life. Find that balance. I kind of had I don't want to say a spy, a mole. I use that word. I had a source. Yes, I like that one. I had a source. I had a source within your cohort, and I asked her to get a bunch of questions from you guys ahead of time, so that I make sure what I'm talking about we at least have some resemblance of what you guys want to hear. And one of the questions I kept hearing a lot was came wrapped up in the stand for something type of a deal. As Christians, you're going to be going out into a secular world. And you're going to be faced with a lot of different opportunities, I will call it that. And I'll give you some personal ones. I'll give you one example. In broadcasting, every year there is a trade show called the National Association of Broadcasters, NAB, in the beautiful city of Las Vegas. And pretty much anything you want to do in Las Vegas, you can do in Las Vegas. I kind of a note to the guys. There's also the equivalent in Europe called IBC, the International Broadcasters. Oh, I don't remember what the C stands for. And it's in Amsterdam, Netherlands, which makes Las Vegas look like it's not even trying. And my wife and I got married in July, and that show was in September. I took my wife to that show after we first got married. My wife called it Sodom and Gomorrah. But going back to Las Vegas and NAB, the media is a very male-dominated industry. In case you don't know, it's a very, very male-dominated industry. And sales dinners can get rather interesting. And I've been doing sales dinners before the year 2000 when camera phones came out. And if we had camera phones back then, it'd be a rather interesting collection of pictures. Needless to say, one year the guys wanted to do something. After we had dinner and so the guys wanted to do something. So they said they wanted to go to a strip club. I couldn't have timed that if I had wanted to. So, I'm a part of the team, right? I want to feel like I'm fitting in. So what am I going to do here, right? So I said, no, I'm not going to go there with you. I mean, I'll walk. Vegas is a walking place. When you go there, you're walking everywhere. So I walked with them. We went there, and I decided I was going to stay outside. And everybody else went in. And then somebody came back out. One of my colleagues came back out and said, this place is also not for me. But he just wanted to fit in and so on and so forth. But then he told the guys is that he wanted to come outside and keep me company, since I shouldn't be the only one just standing out here waiting for them to come back out. But you have no idea how much of a witness you are. So I'm not saying that you're necessarily going to avoid that situation. If you're not strong enough, definitely avoid it. But God puts you into these circumstances to become a witness as well. To say that, yeah, you can hang out with the people and say, no, that's just not for me. I'm not going to judge them for them doing it. No, that's between them and their maker. But I'm going to say, for me and who I stand for and what I stand for, I'm not going to do this. I'll wait for you guys to come out, and then we'll go on to our next activity. Another situation was we were doing a promotion where we had a big sponsor that paid us a lot of money. Like lots of money. And it was for using their technology. It turned out that their technology wasn't quite up to snuff. And but they still wanted to advertise it as that we were using their technology. So I'm like, guys, no, that's not right. I mean, let's just tell them, look, your technology is not up to snuff. We can't use it. We'll gladly take your money. But we can't promote it in the way that you said. Everybody was humming and hawing, ignoring me. So I said, you know what? Guess what? Fortunately, I had a good enough relationship with the C-level organization. Live good, people. Live good, people. Watch what you do and what you say. So I wrote an email. At great personal risk. I have no idea what's going to happen. So I sent an email to the CEO and copied my boss and the other parties in this. And I expressed, I said, this is not the company I believe I work for. I believe that we stand for A, B, and C. I said, if we decide that we're going to still go on and do this, I'd like to be removed from the project. My boss came to me afterwards and said, you know what, I felt the same way. And I'm saying to myself, if you felt the same way, why didn't you say something? Well, I'm sharing that to tell you that at times you're going to be the only one standing there, and you're going to feel very, very lonely. And I'll be taking myself off a very forward-focused project that had a lot of limelight on it. So sometimes you're going to have to give up some things to stand on your principles. And it's okay. Because 9 out of 10 times, by you standing up, you do a couple things. One, you're going to influence somebody else. And two, you're going to set yourself up for something bigger later on. You may not know what it is, but 9 out of 10 times, there's something bigger and better coming down the road because you had the gall to stand up for what you know is right. No matter what people tell you, integrity is something that people have a great respect for. And unfortunately, there are fewer and fewer people who are willing to stand up with integrity. So do not be afraid to hang on to your beliefs. Yes, you may have to give up some things and watch some great opportunities go by. But it is better for you to do that than you make this slip. Because as the saying goes, you make one, it's easier to make another. And before you know it, you're like, how in the world did I give up this thing? Stand up for what you know is right. For example, this is Black History Month. Martin Luther King. Everyone know about Martin Luther King? One of his main principles was that of nonviolence. A lot of his cohorts back in the day, wanted him to switch to violence. And he said, nope, I'm going to stick with nonviolence. Of his cohorts, he's the one most remembered. Although he was shot by violence, he's still the one most remembered for standing up for what he knew was a better way to go. And most likely what he did had more of an effect to his cause than the others. All right, so let's get down to brass tacks. Money, money, money. One person earlier on said, when I asked the question, what do you want to do? Make money. Of course we want to make money. The key, however, how many people have heard the saying, if I do what I love, I never... There you go, man. You guys know all these things. Do what you love, not for the money, but because you love it. Do what you love, not for the money, but because you love it. There are a lot of people with a lot of money who are very miserable. Money can buy you some happiness. It doesn't buy you any happiness, because it does. It enables you to do a lot of other things that can give you happiness, but it's not going to give you the fulfillment that you're looking for. You don't have to take my word for it either. Read a guy called Solomon. This guy, you know Solomon? Anybody know Solomon? he kind of had a couple palaces, women galore, cities over there, cities over there. He asked for this, it just comes running. So he was one to talk about money. It's like, you know what? Yeah, all these things, nah, just vanity. Do what you love, and you will never work a day in your life. So now when you start to work, make sure you do the right thing with the money. And I'm talking on some of these topics because, again, these are the topics that I wished people had with me when I was here at this stage in my life. I'm currently reading some books from the 1900s. There are some pretty good reads. Have you guys heard of a book called As a Man Thinketh? A lot of people were into that kind of book. It kind of says it's a lot of biblical principles talking about as you think that you are. I don't remember. I'm paraphrasing the text a little bit there, but it's basically that is the context of it. Another book I've been reading is one entitled "The Richest Man in Babylon." So I can see that not there. So what I'm going to share with you here is an adaptation of that, sprinkled in with some other stuff that I've kind of been doing myself, and you can adapt this to what you want to do. So when you start getting some coin, right? Make sure, and I can attest to this, no matter how little coin you make sure this first one you do. You carve out God's part. God has given you this, you put it. And I will personally tell you, through my entire life, that I have noticed that I'm accountable for my own thing. Now, when I was a baby in my house, my mom's house, and so on and so forth, since I've been working in college, I give the Lord at least his 10%. I have not had a money problem at all. Period, end of discussion. I'm not saying I'm wealthy. I can pay my bills. There has not been a month that I've had more month than money. Why? I really think it's because I return my tithe. God said, if you give me my money, he's going to do what? That's his promise. And I can tell you, that is one that I can guarantee you he has kept for me. And he actually even says to challenge him, right? And I did. I challenged him. I was like, all right, you said this is it. And trust me, there have been some months that I'm like, when I give you this money there, I'm not sure if I'm going to have more month than money left now. But I did my part, and the Lord said, oh, so you thought you were, oh, don't worry, I got you covered. And something came in, and I'm like, oh, all right, that's taken care of. Next month, keep on moving. The next one is pay yourself. Takes 10% out of it. And this goes for, I don't care how much money you're making. You could be making $1,000 a month, $100 a month. Don't care the number of their income. Do this. Pay yourself. Take 10% and either save it and also invest it in whatever mechanism that you can invest it. Invest it. I go back to the parable of the talents. Don't just dig a hole and drop the money in. Find something you can invest in. You're not going to look to make millions. Even if you're just sitting in the bank for right now, getting your 0.00000000001%. But at least do something with it. Because I think even the parable talks about if you had even just brought it to the bank, that would have been better than digging the hole. Right? Next one, pay off your debts. Allocate 20% of your income to pay for debts. How many people would like to own a home one day? How many people own a home? I like to tell people that the bank owns my home and I pay them rent. It's called a mortgage. You know what the word mortgage means? Death grip. Look it up. No, I kid you not. Look it up. That's what the word mortgage means. Death grip. And that is exactly what it is. For all who are paying mortgages, death grip, right? You miss a payment, the bank is like, yeah, guys, you owe me some money. Either you pay up or you move out. I give you 3 months tops. Get your act together, or yeah, I'm coming to take this back up. This is now mine. Pay down your debts. Allocate that 20%. And then after you're debt free, right? After you're debt free, so you did what you need to do and you're debt free. Now invest that money like the other 10%. Now, investing doesn't say it only belongs to you. Investing can also mean you're investing in someone else. And beyond your family members, it could be someone at school that you realize, you know what, this person is a hard worker. They're having some challenges with paying their school fee. I am going to invest in this person's future. So it doesn't always have to be an inward investment. It can be an outward investment as well. And then live on the rest. And I'm sure a lot of you are scratching your head. How in the world am I going to live on 55 to 6% of my $100? Here's how. First, stop looking at the Jones and the Smith and everybody else. They're not paying for any of that. Live within your means. Get what you need. You don't need a new car every year. To give an example, my last car that I retired, I had 364,000 miles on the clock. And the only reason I retired it is in the gas tank, there's a little flap. It's a float that when the gas is filled, it floats up and closes so you can't put it anymore. That's why the gas tank pump clicks off. So that spring on that flap broke, so I couldn't put gas in the car. You can't put gas in the car, you can't drive it. So I said, okay, fine. It's time for another car. Didn't buy a new car either, bought a used car. My current car has 174,000 miles on the clock. For me, a car is a liability. I put gas in it, I have to put tires in it, I have to change oil, I have to insure it and insure it. It's a liability. It's not making me any money. I don't need a Benz or a BMW or a Jag and insert your favorite car here. Yes, sir.
My question, Dr. Henry, is that with the school debts, that when these young people get out of school, some of them may owe as much as $100,000. How will that work in their situation? And when would they be able to practice that? Now, I say that against the backdrop. When I got out of school from Oakwood here in '76, I owed less than $2,000. I was out of debt in about 2 months. How does that work?
Great question. I had the fortunate, I'll say fortunate, and this goes back to that blessings thing I was talking about with that 10% thing. Leaving Jamaica, at the time the Jamaican dollar was $36 to $1 US. I went to Walla Walla College, Oakwood, just like yourselves here. Back then, the school fee was $16,000 without room and board. I had to have room and board, so that was much more than that. My mom works for the church, and my dad was a pastor, and he passed away. The church was, per policy, supposed to pay 75% of my tuition, leaving me with 25%. I have letter in hand. 4 days before school opens, I get a call from the union saying, oh yeah, we're no longer doing that. I'm in Walla Walla, just in case you guys don't know this. Walla Walla is in the state of Washington, not Washington, D.C., the state of Washington, all the way over here. Jamaica is on the other side. right? I'm over here 4 days before school starts and have zero idea how am I going to make the first payment for school. No shillings in my pocket to even rub together, or pennies in my pocket to rub together. But I will tell you, I graduated from Walla Walla debt free. Some of the times the fees were paid, I have no idea how they were paid. None, zero, zilch, nada, no idea. I worked 3 jobs on campus. Since I was an international student, I was required to take a full load. And I did my first 2 years in Jamaica, so that means I had no GPA buffers, so no general education classes, all core engineering classes. So 16 credits of core engineering and math classes. No GPA buffers, and I have to keep my GPA up to stay in school, working 3 jobs. I tried 4 jobs 1 quarter, and I said, no, this is ridiculous. So I dropped back to 3 jobs. I said, yeah, I can continue with 3 jobs. 3. 1, 2, 3. And I got 8 hours of sleep per night, by the way. I'm glad you asked that question. On the bottom of my email to this day, or today, I have the following quote that I claim to be the author on. Time is a non-renewable resource. Use it wisely. Time is a non-renewable resource. Use it wisely. We all have 24 hours in the day. I challenge each one of you, when you leave here, to make a list of what you do with those 24 hours. I love to play this challenge with my friends, and I get to around some 18, most no more than 20 hours, and they have no idea what I do with at least 4 to 6 hours of the day. None, zilch, nada. Upon my 24, I have 8 hours. My roommate despised me. It's like, how can you go to bed at 12 o'clock in the night and wake up at 8 in the morning? I maximize my day while working 3 jobs per day too. You have to use the resources that you have been given. So to answer your question, sir, to get your... No, I'm going to answer your question now. Yeah, so I'm going to work on your question now. So to get a student loan, you're given an estimate as to what it's going to cost you, right? When you finish school, they also give you a method of payment. You can either do whatever the number is divided by the 10 years, or whatever the case may be, or you can front load it or back load it. If you front load it, that means you expect to pay the most in the front and it tapers off. Or you can back load it and you do a small amount in the earlier years when your earning power may not be as high, and then as your earning power is expected to grow, you backload it that way. When I did my doctorate, it was the first time that I actually had a student loan. All my master's and stuff was paid by the company that I work for. And again, back to some of the things. You perform, people will invest in you, right? Companies do pay for people's education. The company I work for now, Disney, regardless of where you are in the organization, if you're a ticket person at Walt Disney World to anybody else, the company will pay 100% of your education. And there are a lot of companies that are like that, right? So back to using the opportunities, but back to the student loan things. So you can then structure your loan repayment plan to match what your income level is. And you can change it. and you can always pay more. So it's just like people who have homes and mortgages. People ask me, why don't I have a 15-year mortgage? I'm like, why? Why should I stress myself on 15-year mortgage? I have a 30-year mortgage. I can pay it off as if I have a 15-year mortgage. If there's a month where some things are tight, I'm not no required to pay as if it was a 15-year. I can back off to the 30-year, pay off something else, and then pop back up afterwards. So using these type of strategies will allow you to at least keep up and then get ahead. So when you do have a little bit of extra money, this investing thing, a part of investing can be paying off debt. What's it saying? $1 saved is a... All these little things that our grandparents used to say have actually some wisdom behind it. So there are different techniques and strategies that you can use to be able to make your money stretch a little further. So just in summary again, we're all given various opportunities. The question is, what are we going to do with the opportunities that we're given? Are we going to squander it, take it for granted, or are we actually going to lean into it and give it our all? That choice is up to every single one of us individually, and a choice that we make every single day. So, with that, what questions do you have? Yes, ma'am.
What's the best way to stay consistent in these efforts?
For starting, start simple. Do what you think you can, plan to do what you think you can do. Don't say you're going to get 8 hours of sleep when you know you can't get 8 hours of sleep, as an example. Don't say you're going to exercise every morning and you know you can't exercise every morning. Start with, I'm going to exercise once a week. When you get into that once a week thing and you're consistent in once a week, then you can increase it and so on. So the key is start with something that is manageable and realistic. Sometimes one of the reasons why a lot of people fail at New Year's resolutions, apart from just New Year's and things to be the in thing to do, is that start to plan these big things that they just can't keep up with. To start with the simple stuff, and then as you get into the habit of doing it, just keep on expanding. And be patient with yourself. As the saying goes, Rome wasn't built in a day. Other questions? Yes, ma'am.
What are your thoughts about accountability and accountability partners?
Very good. That's a good suggestion for what the question she just asked a while ago. Is get yourself an accountability partner. If you know you can't do it yourself and you have to have some form of external motivation to do it, I'm going to stick with the exercise thing because we all want to be exercising and eating healthier and all that wonderful stuff. Is get someone to say, hey, this is what I plan to do. I want you now to be able. Oh, thank you. I want you to make sure that I actually do what I say. When you have an accountability partner, give them permission to be a pest and actually make you accountable. If your accountability partner does not have that authority to be able to do something about you not doing it, it's not your accountability partner. They need to be empowered to be able to, when you don't do it, keep you accountable. Oh, so I think any questions have to come up here so we can get you on camera. Don't be shy now. Other questions?
So, okay, my question is, if you said the whole thing like do what you love, you'll never have to work again. What happens when you're doing what you love, but maybe where you're doing it is causing you not to love it so much? And it's a situation where you can't necessarily like just go somewhere else to do what you love. How do you like stay motivated, stay like loving it, I guess is.
Very good question. Thank you for your question. I'm going to give you an experience as to how that happened. I was working for a company, and as you can tell, I love what I do, right? And I was becoming sick because of the environment that I was in, which was making me not loving what I did, at least where I was doing it. And we all have choices. Every single day we have a choice. So I spoke to management and I said, this is what's going on. This is why I'm not happy here, and so on and so forth. They gave me the lip service, and then nothing changed. And I said, all right, you know what? It's time for me to do something. I have now asked, because I didn't want to leave. I said, I've now asked, and they didn't decide to do anything. I said, all right, it's my turn. So I brushed up my resume, and I left the company. Sometimes, was it terrifying? Absolutely. But I'm like, you know what? My health, or stay here and just keep on getting sicker and sicker and sicker. I'm like, you know what? My health is much more valuable than that. You have the power. You're welcome. Other questions? I think they want you up at the microphone. But thank you.
When it comes to combating like insecurity and doubts, because a lot of the times inside this field, doubts will not only come from your own mind, but from many people surrounding you, people that just don't know how things are going to happen, or that don't believe that what you're trying to do is worth it, even though that you know that it is. How do you consistently reassure yourself while moving and pushing forward if no one else is standing behind you?
That's a good one and a very tough one, and a very pertinent one, especially in today's world. There is my wife is a psychologist, so I get to get the pillow talk, as they say. Thank you for the question. For some of the things that she sees, just in general, and also I go to her for advice in dealing with people who report to me to say, hey, this is going on. I think X, Y, and Z. What do you think? And she said, yeah, X, Y, but not Z, maybe A. And one of the big things is the depression and self-worth and things of that nature. Unfortunately, a lot of society right nowadays tends to want to tear people down rather than building them up. I'll share my strategy. It may not be for everybody. I'll show you my strategy. I have very few friends. When I say few friends, I can count them on less than one hand. You heard me? And I'm not talking about very many fingers on this one hand either. Associate with people who have your best interest at heart and are willing to stand by you through thick or thin. Those people are going to be few and far between. On the flip side, make sure that you are also one of those people for somebody else. So find yourself people that you can trust and hang on to, that you know has your back no matter what. Yes, it may mean at times that you're not as close to evil family that you think should be there to have your back. Most times, not all, those people will come around. I'll tell you, most times, the reason why they're hating on you is they're jealous of you. They're jealous of what they see you can become or are becoming. And they want to say, no, you can't go out of the barrel before I do. So there's you heard the crab in the barrel mentality? So I see you going up and I say, no, that's so fast. You go, no, that's so fast.
But you know who you are and whose you are. Hold on to that, knowing that there's nothing that you dream or imagine that you cannot become. With God on your side, nothing is. Try him at his promise. That's another promise, right? Can I let you know? I'm not just not articulating stuff here. My dad died of cancer when I was 6 years old. My mom raised 3 boys on a salary less than what my first paycheck was. People didn't think that any of us would have become anything. All of her boys have at least a bachelor's degree, at least. Only you can stop where you can go. Nobody else can stop you. Cool? All right. Yes, ma'am. And I'm going to bring the microphone to her.
You know, I just want to say, something about my very short experience. I was raised by my grandmother, and my grandmother always taught me that if you get yourself in a situation and you feel that you have to stay there because of whatever the reason, don't take that particular position. And that is a strategy that I've always used in my life. And to make a story short, when I graduated high school, I moved to Washington, D.C. I took the civil service test, and I was hired at Walter Reed Hospital. I moved, after I was married, we moved to Ohio, back to Ohio. Every job that I have had in my life, since I've been working since the age of 18, I never stayed in that job as long as I felt that this isn't accomplishing what I wanted to do. I will not stick with a job that I feel, I can't deal with. When we moved to New York, I applied for a job at the United Nations. They hired me. I stayed there 6 months. And although I enjoyed what I was doing, I had to take the subway from Queens to Manhattan. And I didn't want to do that. And when I told them that, I really don't think I want to stay here because I don't like the traveling system. And they said, well, they wanted me to stay, but I said, no, I can't. The next day after I quit that job, I lived in Queens, New York. I went to Kelly Services and applied for a position there. And they said, okay, we have a 3-month that we can send you to. So they sent me to the borough president's office in Queens. They told me try it for 3 months. By the end of the 3 months, they said, would you like to stay here? Would you like to, stay here and accept the position? I said, sure. They hired me there. And I stayed there for 14 years. And my supervisor was Claire Schulman, who was the Queensboro president. She was a Jewish lady. I was trying to finish up my BA at Queens College. And the last course that I had to take was on a Friday, and it would take me into Sabbath. So I told her, I says, I can't work on Saturdays. Now, her being Jewish, she understood that. Right. So she said, I tell you what you do. You take the class on Friday, and I will still pay you. And I was able to finish the course. I graduated from Queens College. She was my commencement speaker. She never told me that she was doing the commencement. And God has always seemed to put me in situations like that it always. Never been fired from a job, always got the job that I wanted, when I wanted it. When I left Borough Hall after 14 years, I went right into real estate, and that's another story, how he blessed me there. So what I'm saying is this: don't think that you have to stay in a position or a situation that you're not happy in. You know, move on, because God may have something better for you. So don't stay, that goes for a job, a relationship, or whatever. He may have something better for you.
Thank you very much. Other questions?
Yes, sir. Talk to us about experiences with networking with other professionals, especially as you're trying to move into a certain area or discipline. How important is that? How important have those situations been to you to network with other professionals in that same field?
Thank you for the question. Now that's a weak spot on for me. I did in a certain level, so in management they give you these profile tests and so on and so forth. So one of the things that came up in my profile test was that I don't like networking. And I knew that going in. So it was rather interesting for me to kind of see it bubble up to that, like, yeah, you don't like networking. So one of the things I've been trying and making an effort to do is to go to locations where I can network. And actually, when I go there, I don't just find somebody I know and just hang out with them for the entire thing, but to actually work the room, as they would say. And the importance of it is it allows you to be able to meet new people, be able to find out different people have different experiences and need different things. Not like you're looking for a job and that kind of stuff. We get an idea also what's out there, what the needs are, what is the latest thing in your field that is of demand. So if and when that time comes, you're like, okay, I realize that 5 different companies all are looking for people with this particular skill. It may be a good idea for me to see if I can start getting that skill or at least knowing about it. That's one. 2, it may allow you to also learn about different openings or needs for different people that you may know somebody else that you can refer to. So networking is not just about you. It's also about how you can use it as a stepping stone or be a stepping stone for somebody else. And that goes in both directions, right? Either there's somebody coming to you for your employment or going to somebody else. So it is just like how you have your friends and you will keep your friends hopefully throughout life. You make new friends and you make business and professional friends that have some of the same benefits as well. But yes, it is important. For me personally, I know it's a deficiency for me, and I'm working on doing that. So I have conferences that I try to go to and do more than just stand in the corner and smile. Yes, sir.
I wonder if you could address the concept of deferred gratification, especially as it applies to our people, and then how students can use it to pay off the student loans.
And when you say our people, can you just give me a little bit more information on that?
It just seems as though we, because of the number of years we spend in college, it's a gimme situation after graduation. I want the best. I want the brightest. I want this. Whereas our cousins seem to have the ability to delay it.
Understood. Thank you. So there are a couple of things that we have to remember, and we can easily fall into this trap. We see our parents with a house, a car, and everything else, and we're like, oh, it's time for me to get a house and a car and everything else. A fully furnished home with all the latest fandangles. But sometimes our parents fail us and trying to protect us don't tell us how long it took for them to get all of those things. So as a result, we grew up into it, so we thought, well, it was always here. We don't hear the stories about when they graduated, they were in an apartment that they had no idea how they're going to pay for. It was a studio apartment. They have no idea how they're going to put food on the table. And then you came along. And all the plans that they had for doing all the other stuff got to be pushed down the road. So when we come to graduate now, we like, well, mom and dad have a 3-bedroom house with 2 cars in the garage, fully furnished, and they take trips. I need to do the same. So the first thing we have to realize is all that what you see took time to happen at great sacrifice, which also included you. That's one. Number 2, it is good to have things that are yours, that you can say you work for. However, you don't have to get all of them at the same time. That's number 1. And number 2, you don't have to get the best of it either. For me, and I'm going to stick on the car thing because I'm a guy and guys typically like cars. For me, a car is a liability. I valued a house over a car. And I ran the numbers to say I could rent a place, or it was at a time when mortgages were low, I could buy a small place, not a 2,600 square foot house. It was a small place on the size of an apartment, but guess what? Now it's a mortgage. I could buy that for the same amount of money my rent was. Now, by doing that, I start to build credit, because a mortgage wraps up your credit pretty well and pretty fast, until I could buy something else. I mean, to give an idea, my realtor, when I was looking at different things, and I was falling into that trap, of, oh, I want a bigger house, my realtor looked at me and said, you remember, it's just you. Why do you need a 2,400 square foot house for just you? I'm like, yeah, you have a point. Could I afford it? Yes. But that wasn't her point. It's like, you don't need it. So get what you need, not what you want. Get what you need, not what you want. That allows you to have that delay, that gratification of, you know what, I don't need to have a pool house and a swimming pool and a spa and a jacuzzi and 3-car garage. You're just graduating from college. And, oh, it's a son, I'm sorry. And take 2 exotic vacations a year. So that's what get what you need, not what you want. Other questions? Yes, sir, if you may.
One question. Should you share your business idea?
Trust the person you're sharing the business idea with. If it's a person that you think is going to steal your idea, then don't share it. You can have people you can bounce ideas off of. So you can get a mentor. And mentors come in different shapes and sizes. So you can get a mentor to say, hey, I'm thinking about this and here's why. And always good to have someone to bounce ideas off of. But don't be afraid to share your ideas, but just know who you're sharing your ideas with.
All right. Thank you.
You're welcome. Other questions? All right, well, thank you so much for your time.
Dr. Henry, thank you so much for spending so much of your time with us today. Thank you for being our keynote speaker. Thank you for giving so much insight to our students all throughout the day. Thank you, everyone, for coming, staying with us, students. We appreciate you, and I hope that something that you learned today proved to be valuable as you continue to progress in your careers. We want you to thrive and succeed, and that's why we have these events. And thank you all for your support. We, on behalf of the communication department at Oakwood University, and we would like to gift you with this gift. Yeah, sorry, I know words, I found words. But I wanted to thank you and offer that to you. Thank you. We could not pay you enough for your time, but we thank you for coming to Oakwood and giving that to us. So let's give him a round of applause one more time. Pardon? Yeah, no problem.
So as we say in Jamaica, a parting word. So just remember, it's not the technology that matters, it's the experiences that you create with the technology that will make a difference.
Thank you so much. Okay, as we wrap up, before I pray, I wanted to make sure that those who have surveys that have not filled them out, please make sure that you turn them into me before you leave. We also have refreshments in the hallway on your way out, so please don't forget to stop and take those. And if you have, and if you have not gotten your resume reviewed, please still send it to me, and I will send it on to our professionals that have seen us throughout the day. Okay? And I'm going to call up our chair for women of the department to give us our final remarks.
In repeating, I'm so grateful that each of you came out today. Some of you have been with us all day, and I hope that you were enriched. We appreciate your presence, and we look forward to the next time. I also want to say a special word of thanks to Mr. Ron Pride and his graphic design students. Are any of you still here? Those of you who worked on the programs, and would you please stand? You can do it. Nobody's standing. I see at least one. Caitlin, okay. Caitlin, you're the representative of your group, but you guys did a really good job, and we appreciate. And finally, our closing prayer, Ms. Donnette Chambers. I also want you to give her a round of applause because she is responsible for putting this together and working through everything. Donnette, we appreciate you greatly. And we love you.
Thanks. Okay, let's stand as we pray. Dear God, who is living, we thank you so much for allowing us to be here. We thank you for gifting us or granting us the ability to be consecrated communicators for you. I ask that you please help anything that was taught today, any insight that was given, any knowledge that was bestowed is something that our students are able to carry with them through every facet of their lives. I hope that this experience was something that made you proud, God, and that you get all the glory from our lives for what we choose to do with the information that we received today. We thank you for the conference as a whole and the people that came before us, the people that pour into us, and that you made this all possible. I ask that you please bless us throughout the rest of the weeks, years, months, as we do what you have called us to do. Help us to have new vigor and passion as we pursue excellence. And please be with us in the department as we seek to continue to do things that can inspire our students. And please be with us as an institution and all the people that support us. Please be with our alumni. Please be with the people who will eventually come back and support and pour into our students. Please grant us safe traveling mercies as we leave here. Help us never, even though we leave this place, help us to never leave your presence. This is our prayer in the name of Jesus. Amen. All right. You are dismissed.